Okay, my picture of the week is where all this hard work is going to end up, and that is at graduation, and this is what it looks like. And this week we're going to be looking at intellectual property. That's in chapter 23 of ABL, and international law in chapter 33 of the FBL. With intellectual property, the highlights are patents, copyrights, trademarks, and trade secrets. And a patent is just a government right, our government giving you the exclusive right to make, sell, or use an invention for 20 years. And I have a picture there of Thomas Edison's patent of the light bulb, and that certainly was a unique invention, and it does have to be something that is unique. It can't just be an upgrade of a currently existing product. So keep that in mind. Copyrights are a little bit different. Copyright is primarily on, say, for example, music or printed material. And that gives you the right, basically to exclude others from using or marketing your form of expression, music, art, written word, those type of things. Copyrights are fairly easy to get. I know I have a copyright on a training program that I developed in the 1980s. And it lasts for quite a long time. So it gives you more protection than a patent, which is just for 20 years. Along with this and intellectual property is trademarks. And trademarks are specific examples of something that identifies a company or organization, and it could be a name, a slogan, or an identifying design. And I put some examples, like the Golden Arches is McDonald's, and that's pretty ubiquitous. You see that everywhere. And then down a little bit below there on the picture is that apple with the bite taken out of it, which I think pretty much everybody knows what's that about. And right above that is Starbucks. So you just sort of look at that and you can see how these are very specific and well-known ways of identifying organizations or products. Trade secrets are information specific to a product or a process of a company. For example, the trade secret of Coca-Cola is the recipe for Coca-Cola. And better than a patent, trade secrets never expire. So Coca-Cola is better off and has been better off keeping that as a trade secret. And then one other item I want to mention is just that right of publicity, and that's the ability to exploit a person's name or image. For example, when Bill Gates was with Microsoft, they used his photo a lot, and he was also in quite a few commercials. And when you think of Berkshire Hathaway, the investment firm, you think of Warren Buffett. So those are examples of that right of publicity. So please read this chapter carefully, because these are the types of things in your own organization that you need to have some knowledge of. Chapter 33, all about international law, and this is a great chapter. Read this one carefully. We could take international law into a complete number of additional courses. And in fact, if you do take a course in international law, you'll get into a lot further depth than we're going to go into in this course. But what you have to be aware of is the whole issue of treaties. And treaties are between nations that have some sort of sovereignty, meaning they can create law and governance over populations within a specific area. And then along with treaties, there's conventions and customs. And conventions are treaties on issues of common concern. For example, individual nations could have a conventions treaty on, let's say, extradition, or you say you have NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, is a convention on mutual defense. And customs are primarily just how have we always dealt, if you're in a specific country, how have we always dealt with this other country, and that's our custom between the two countries. And we have a lot of, or used to have a lot of customs between our border countries of Mexico and Canada on how we would handle certain things. Additionally, I have a picture there. This is the World Trade Organization, which is a multinational organization, and looks at issues of trade in a variety of aspects. The green countries are all countries that are involved with the World Trade Organization. The blue is just that they're also represented by the European Union. Yellow countries are observer countries, and the red countries are just countries that aren't involved with the World Trade Organization. But when you're looking at international law, it really, you have to look at two things. For example, does the country have a law that follows the organization throughout the world, so that that organization is beholden to not only the host country law, but their own country's law? And we have that in the United States, for example, where in some countries, the use of bribery is customary. We will not allow our business people to engage in any sort of bribery in any other country for contracts or any other types of favors. Then try to be aware of the limiting doctrines. The forum non-convenience is just what is the most convenient forum to settle a concern, a legal concern. And they look at areas of where did the problem take place, where are the witnesses, where are the plaintiff, and where is the defendant, and what is the most convenient forum for that. Additionally, take a look at sovereign immunity. In many cases, a nation will say it is immune from being sued or taken to court over certain issues because they have sovereign immunity. And then also there are situations where there is an active state where a country can, let's say, for example, nationalize your organization's businesses for the benefit of the country. And we have that here in the United States. It's called eminent domain, where different government organizations can take land. They have to pay for it, fair market price for it, but they can go through a process of taking land from private landowners. This was, when I was in my mayor's position, this was something that from time to time people would say, well, let's just take the property and invoke eminent domain. And I always said, no, we're not going to do that to people. because how would you like to be treated that way? And so never used eminent domain at all. And then regulating trade is always a hot topic. Why you would do import controls is basically if you think market for a specific product is being flooded by, let's say, cheap imports and your own companies are suffering. And why would you do export controls? Well, you usually don't do export controls because you really want your own companies and organizations to send as much product to overseas markets as possible, because it creates jobs within your country and it brings in revenue that you can tax. And then free trade, again, with the World Trade Organization, that's one of the things that they promote, is the whole concept of free trade, where you don't get into tariffs. You really examine what is fair to both countries or a specific area, and what is the best way to get involved with trading between nations and following the laws of each nation. So keep all of this in mind and really examine this chapter carefully, because it will provide some value and some good foundational information for the future. To wrap everything up, just remember that the intangible personal property of an organization is intellectual property. Make sure you have a good idea of the rules and definitions of trademarks, copyrights, trade secrets, and patents. Make sure you understand the fair use doctrine, that is, when you can use something that has a copyright, and what's usually looked at is what are you going to use it for. Educational groups have some certain leeways there, as well as if you're going to use it for a non-commercial purpose, and what's the extent of the use of the copywritten information. So think about that. And then import, export controls and free trade. When should you use it? When is it better to be involved in a free trade situation? That'll give you a good understanding of sort of the economic outlook of different nations. This is the last week of class, so just remember all assignments are due this Sunday by 11 p.m. So make sure you can get all your work wrapped up by then. Let me know if you have any questions, and take a look at that picture there, and remember, this is where you want to be, and this is where you're going to be at the end of your MBA journey. So my best wishes to all of you.